Is this the beginning of the end for the Democratic Party? Good morning, Cooner country. Okay, my friends, a lot, and I mean a lot to talk about today. There are some very, very serious issues developing overseas on the foreign policy front, directly involving President Trump and, of course, the United States of America. But before I get to that, clearly, there's no question. What we saw yesterday was a breakdown in democracy. There's no other way to put it. An absolute clown show in Congress. And many now are starting to openly question whether this could be the beginning of the end of the Democrats. Their Trump derangement syndrome, their hatred for Trump, their inability to put forth serious, credible solutions to the problems, the massive problems that this country faces, is now leading them to engage in more extreme, outlandish, clownish, and absolutely at times insane behavior. 2-year-old children don't behave like this. So, as you know, it all started during Trump's State of the Union, or I guess technically it was a State of the Union, but his joint address to Congress. And right from the gate, right from the beginning of his speech, the Democrats were there to pick a fight. They had their stupid little paddles saying Elon Musk steals. What is he stealing? The only ones that are stealing are the politicians, but let that go. False, lies. They wore pink. They yelled. They screamed. They heckled. They wouldn't even stand and applaud for a 13-year-old boy battling brain cancer. They wouldn't even stand and applaud for mothers whose daughters were brutally murdered by violent illegal aliens. That's now the state of the Democratic Party. But what exemplified it the most was Texas Congressman Al Green, a radical leftist who's already filed articles of impeachment against Trump. That was a month ago. So Trump was barely in office 10 days, and he's already been filing articles of impeachment. Well, Al Green kept talking over and over President Trump, to the point then he began to approach Trump waving his cane, threatening him with his cane as if he was going to smash him in the head with his cane. Listen, if you remember, it was within 4 or 5 minutes of Trump's speech. It disrupted his speech. It's frankly stunned everyone in the chamber, and it was caught on national television. Here is exactly, just to bring it all back to you. This is Trump. He's addressing Congress. Green is shouting, standing, shaking his cane, yelling and screaming, "You have no mandate to cut Medicaid. You have no mandate." Roll cut 22. Mike.
Likewise, small business optimism saw its single largest one-month gain ever recorded, a 41-point jump.
Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House and to cease any further disruptions. That's your warning.
Now, they didn't stop. And to be fair, it wasn't just Green. He was being egged on by other Democrats who were shouting, screaming, in fact, some of them obscenities, but let that go. But Green wouldn't back down. In fact, no, he got more enraged. And he started to yell even louder. And then he started to shake his cane even more intensely. And he started to walk towards where President Trump was. Finally, everyone had had enough. Johnson ejected him. In modern memory, I can't remember a time where a member of Congress was literally kicked out during a joint address to Congress or a State of the Union. Here is what unfolded. Roll cut 22A, Mike.
Members are engaging in willful and continuing breach of decorum, and the chair is prepared to direct the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order to the joint session. Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat. Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the Sergeant-at-Arms to restore order. Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
Now, and he was kicked out. Literally, he was escorted and kicked out. Now, you would think, now I want you to just stand back objectively. You're not going to let the president deliver his address to the country and to a joint session of Congress? You're going to stand there and talk over him the whole time and continue to shake your cane and slowly edge your way closer and closer. Basically, the closer he gets, he's going to whack him over the head. And this is considered acceptable behavior? And you've got many Democrats who were cheering Al Green on. So, not to put too fine a point on it, okay? So, Al Green now has been kicked out. Trump is now still speaking. This is him after he just got kicked out. Now, listen to this. He's even admitting, I did it on purpose. Yeah, I wanted to obstruct. I didn't want him to deliver his speech. And then he says, I'm going to be filing articles of impeachment against Trump. Roll cut 27. This is Al Green right after he was kicked out. The media was all around him in a scrum. Roll cut 27. Mike.
What do you want to say to Alyssa Slotkin?
He has no mandate to cut Medicaid. None.
Is the only punishment that you were kicked out, sir? Is there something?
I don't know. Whatever the punishment is, I'm not fighting the punishment. This is about the people who are being punished by virtue of losing their health care. This is the richest country in the world, and we have people who don't have good health care. We've got to do better. And now we're about to cut Medicaid, which is for poor people. Health care has become wealth care for many people, and we can't afford to let that happen.
Is that the only?
Now, okay. So, Mike, I have that he's going on, that he's filing articles of impeachment. That's what I have. That this is what he was saying after he was addressed. But anyway, okay, we'll talk about it during the break. The point is this. By the way, no one's cutting Medicaid. That's a big lie. Okay? So, listen now to him. This is Al Green on the floor saying, oh yeah, I heard the speaker. I heard him, and I wouldn't stop. Roll cut 27B, Mike.
I heard the speaker when he said that I should cease. I did not, and I did not with intentionality. It was not done out of a burst of emotion. I was emotional about it, but I did it with intentionality. I think that on some questions of conscience, you have to be willing to suffer the consequences.
Okay. So, this sets the stage now, okay? So, he says, I did it. I did it on purpose. I'm willing to suffer the consequences. I was there to disrupt him. I was almost threatening him. I'm here, almost threatening the President of the United States. So, he is then censured. Yesterday morning, 224 to 198. Every single Republican joined by 10 Democrats. 10 Democrats censure Al Green. Obviously, he's censured. He has to be censured, which is the highest punishment that you can inflict upon a member of Congress, short of kicking them out, expelling them from Congress. But then, as they brought up Al Green to the well of the House to then be formally censured, Al Green is now joined by a chorus of Democrats. And they start singing the civil rights song, We Shall Overcome. Roll cut 29, Mike.
Of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker. The House has come to order. The House has come to order.
I mean, they're singing We Shall Overcome. Remember, they sang that in the 60s when they were trying to overcome segregation and Jim Crow. So they're trying to act now, listen, because Al Green happens to be black. They're acting as if censuring Al Green is now what? The return of Jim Crow? It's a civil rights struggle? Really? It's the return of segregation? And they disrupted Congress. They were there. They couldn't even censure Al Green properly. All of Congress, your taxpayer money, the whole day was wasted on this. On Democrats singing in solidarity with Al Green. 620 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868. Okay, I want to replay the cut, the full cut this time. Here is Congressman Al Green, okay? And Al Green kicked out of Congress now. He just got kicked out. He's outside of Congress. Trump is now resuming his address to Congress and to the country. And listen to him say he's now drawing up articles of impeachment against Trump. Roll cut 27, Mike.
He has no mandate to cut Medicaid. None.
Is the only punishment that you were kicked out, sir? Is there something?
I don't know. Whatever the punishment is, I'm not fighting the punishment. This is about the people who are being punished by virtue of losing their health care. This is the richest country in the world, and we have people who don't have good health care. We've got to do better. And now we're about to cut Medicaid, which is for poor people. Health care has become wealth care for many people, and we can't afford to let that happen.
Is that the only thing that you're protesting?
No, I have other things I'm protesting. And I'm also working on my articles of impeachment. This president is unfit. He should not hold the office. 34 felony convictions, 2 times impeached.
There you go. Okay, he's unfit. They want to relitigate the election. He's working on articles of impeachment. And listen, here's the kicker. You know what he's going to try to impeach Trump on? I swear to you. Lack of civility. I swear, incivility. This guy is going to be trying to impeach Trump over lack of decorum, respect, and civility in the White House. You can't make this up. Now, the point is just this. First of all, how many times can they just lie and lie and lie? It's like a broken record with these Democrats. Trump's not cutting Medicare. Trump's not cutting Medicaid. Trump's not cutting food stamps. Trump's not cutting Social Security. Trump's not cutting cancer research. I mean, just because you call a horse a cow doesn't make it a cow. Just because you keep saying something over and over again doesn't make it true. Okay, that's number one. Number two, you heard him right from the proverbial horse's mouth. You heard him. I take full responsibility. Okay. So if you take full responsibility, be a man. You disrupted the speech. You threatened the President of the United States. You breached every rule and every decorum in Congress. It's a no-brainer. That's why even 10 Democrats, not much, but at least 10, crossed over with Republicans and voted to censure him yesterday. Now, instead of just going up, getting officially censured, going back to his seat, and let's resume the people's business, no, they had to even turn that into a clown show. And so, all of these Democrats joined Al Green in the well of the House. And they start singing the civil rights song, "We Shall Overcome." And they literally shut down Congress for the entire day. By the way, that's your taxpayer dollars. So, one full day, we paid their salary to try to get something done on behalf of the American people. But because of these clowns and their antics, nothing was done. Literally, Johnson had to suspend the session because these people were running onto the floor, surrounding Al Green like he's the second coming of Martin Luther King Jr. I'm not kidding. He's a hero of the resistance, la résistance. Listen now, they're singing "We Shall Overcome." As if, again, like they're fighting segregation or Jim Crow. And Johnson says, I can't, I've lost control of the chamber. I've got to terminate the session. Roll cut 29A, Mike.
What's it? You want to let him keep doing this? The House to come to order. Clear the well, please. Clear the well. The House has to continue its business. Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the House will stand in recess subject to the call of the chair.
And there you go. And that's it. We blew a whole day. Okay? We blew a whole day. And it wasn't even a proper censure. There you go. Okay? And you see these idiots singing on the floor, dancing, holding hands, putting their arms around each other, like it's a civil rights demonstration right there in the well of the House. And you can hear a little bit of the chatter. Johnson's like, well, they're going to do this all day. They're disrupting Congress. And then another, I guess he was talking to Steve Scalise or whoever, and he just goes like, okay, cut him off. Just cut him off. Just cut him off. And so then they had to temporarily, suspend the session of Congress, which means we lost the whole day. So they literally grinded Congress to a halt. Now, I'm telling you, all of those that participated in the singing, in the disruption, in the anarchy, in that clown show, they should be censured as well. But they're starting to turn Congress now into a banana republic. 632 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Larry just messaged me on Messenger. Jeff, isn't that an insurrection? Yes, Larry. A real one. Look, they're paralyzing Congress. They're disrupting Trump's joint address to Congress. They won't even allow one of their own members who admitted that he did it all on purpose, Al Green, that, I wanted to interrupt him. I wanted to talk over him. I kept shaking my cane at him. I did it on purpose, yes. And they won't even let him get censured. So my question to you is this, in all seriousness, are we now starting to see the breakdown of Congress, the paralysis of Congress, and really now these temper tantrums that you wouldn't even see from a 2-year-old child? This sort of kabuki theater, performative theater, in which the Democrats think that the more outrageous they behave, the more outlandish they are, the more they yell and scream in their opposition to Trump and break every norm, every rule, every standard of decorum, that somehow, that's going to resonate with voters? That's going to make them seem tougher and more effective? I think what you're starting to see is now maybe the end of the Democratic Party. They're intellectually bankrupt. They are morally bankrupt. They are exhausted. They have no ideas, no solutions. And they're literally now, they're being run either by puerile adolescents. I mean, I don't even think a seventh grader would pull these kind of stunts. Or by people who are literally insane. I mean, like, take your pick. And so the longer this goes on, I think the more the Democrats are going to become utterly discredited. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Should Al Green have been censored? Number one. And number two, what about all those Democrat members of Congress who really wouldn't let him be properly censured? And as they went to the well of the floor, again, in violation of House rules, and started to sing, "We shall overcome," should they face censure or some kind of punishment as well? And are we now starting to see the loss of control and civilized decency, decorum, in Congress itself? 617-266-6868 is the number. Tony in Gloucester, you're going to kick us off, Tony. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Jeff, this just proves that this is not about politics or honor or any of the stuff they try to convince us that they still believe in. This is about one thing and one thing only. Donald Trump and Elon Musk have found the fraud. They found the kickbacks. And that's all the Democrats care about. And most of the Republicans, I would say. Elon Musk said 100% of the Democrats and 25% of the Republicans are taking kickbacks. He said, I half jokingly, they're going to assassinate me. That's all this has to do with, is the money they've made for all these issues. That's because if they were truly cared about this country, they'd be right on board with this. Yes, find the waste. We have to get this money back. Put this money back in the Treasury. Stop the waste. You don't hear that from them at all. Instead, theatrics. That's all they have left.
Well, I think you nailed it. Tony, really, I think you absolutely hit the nail on the head. And look, take Elizabeth Warren. Now it's come out. Elon Musk's people are starting to track money to her. She's worth north of $67 million. She's one of the loudest, okay? One of the biggest obstructionists. Yeah, as you put it, this performative theater, these theatrics, anything not to find the waste and the fraud and the abuse. Elon asked the question now, I think this was maybe a couple days ago. He goes, how does a woman on a $200,000 a year salary, and it's not like her husband is some businessman or, I mean, she's the moneymaker in the family. So how does a woman on a $200,000 a year salary now suddenly be worth north minimum $67 million? And he says, I got my people looking into it. She's going crazy. She's going crazy because I'm telling you, it was illicit. There's no question it was illicit. So you're dead on. Tony, I got to ask you this. Elon Musk came out, I believe it was yesterday. Okay, don't quote me on this, may have been Wednesday, where he said Al Green's antics and that of the other Democrats throughout Trump's address to the country, to Congress, was so egregious, so cold, so obscene in many ways, so disgusting, that he now believes Republicans can get to 60 Senate seats. And Trump came out and said with a big statement on Truth Social that it was such outrageous, disrespectful behavior that he now says Republicans can run on that speech and the Democrats' horrible behavior alone, just that alone, and win race after race across the entire country. Are Musk and Trump correct? Can Republicans now use the Democrats' childish, almost insane behavior, this theatrics that they're now engaged in, these constant hissy fits, can they use that to win more House seats and more Senate seats? What say you, Tony?
I say yes, and he's got one great way to do it. Before 2026, you release who got kickbacks and how much, and I guarantee you the American people are going to look, they're going to look again and say, listen, we can't have this. We can't elect these people like this, and that's how they're going to win it. I think 2026, for the first time in history, is going to be a slaughter of the Democrats.
Thank you very much for that call, Tony. 617-266-6868. John in Malden. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, everybody.
Hi, John.
Yeah, the Republicans, when Biden was speaking, the Republicans didn't do what Al Green did. If anything, they just sit there quietly or either, turn away or whatever. And another thing, too, is I got a card in the mail the other day, and Ed Markey's face was on it, and he says, you're invited to a town hall meeting in Malden on Saturday, which is this coming Saturday, the 8th, from 2 to 3:30. So, who knows what he's going to be talking about.
Oh, it's going to be resistance against Trump. There's no question. John, there's no question. Look, they're there to resist. They're there to obstruct. They're there to block. They're there to destroy. And they're there to cover up. And I think that's what Tony, is completely right about. Look, their behavior is getting more extreme, more outrageous. Honestly now, slightly now more dangerous. It's getting a little worrisome, to be honest, a little bit, because they don't want to be exposed. Doge will expose everything, and they know it. And they know it. So, look, I've never seen this in my life. Yes, I've seen State of the Unions where members of the opposite party, what was it, Joe Wilson, yelled to Obama, you lie, you lie. I've seen that, okay? I've seen members of Congress shout or heckle. Yeah, that happens. They heckle once, maybe twice, and then they go back in their seat. But to have a guy stand up minute after minute after minute and keep shouting over the President of the United States, shaking his cane at him, like, I want to come at you and smash you over the head. And then the Speaker of the House says, okay, we heard you, sit down. And he keeps going. And he keeps shouting. And he's shouting even louder. And now his cane, he's holding it even more violently and like approaching Trump. And he says, I'm going to call the sergeant at arms. Like, buddy, knock it off. And there he is, waving his cane, shaking his cane, yelling even louder at the top of his lungs. I've never seen this. I've never seen this. If this is not censure, I don't know what is. Like, really, to get rid of censure. And then, when they start censuring the guy, instead, they rush to the floor. The Democrats, many of them, rush to the House floor in the well. And they're like he's some kind of a martyr. We shall overcome. They don't want Congress to get anything done. They want anarchy on the floor so nothing gets passed, nothing gets resolved. 649 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can text us 70470, 70470. This is from 603. And I want to read this, and I want to get all of your reaction to it. Jeff, starting with Trump's joint address to Congress, and now with the censuring of Al Green, the behavior and decorum of these pathetic, desperate Democrats in Congress is starting to look more like something out of a session of a European or Canadian parliament, with all of its booing and hissing. This is starting to get a little embarrassing. I completely agree. And I'm telling you, you can see where this is going. Pretty soon, you know how in Taiwan, they break out in fistfights right there on the floor of the parliament? Or this was maybe a week ago, or was it 4 days ago? In Serbia, fistfights broke out. They threw in smoke bombs. They started to throw all sorts of stuff at each other. You know, like they do this in Eastern Europe. Like, is this what we're going to have now? Where people are just start beating the daylights out of each other? Or detonating smoke bombs or God knows what other projectiles? I mean, this is going to be the next step as they just keep escalating and escalating and escalating. And they look so stupid. I mean, I'm looking at them like, honestly, my Ashton, 8th grader, would not behave the way they're behaving. Even my 6th grader, Ava. Okay? She's 12. I'm telling you, my Ava would not behave like that. She wouldn't. So, I mean, children don't behave the way these Democrats are now behaving. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Okay, listen now. This is unbelievable. This is Congressman Jim McGovern, our own, from Massachusetts, part of the Moonbat congressional delegation. And this to show you the Trump derangement syndrome, how unhinged the Democrats have become. He actually admits, yeah, it was a lack of decorum. Yeah, Al Green's behavior was wrong. It was outrageous. But you know who's to blame? Not Al Green. You guessed it. Evil Orange Man. Trump made him do it. I'm not kidding. Roll cut 25A. Mike.
Mr. Speaker, there has been a lot of outrage in this chamber about an interruption last night. Republicans are furious that someone dared to speak up. Well, you know what? I agree that there was a violation of dignity and decorum of this chamber, and it came from the podium where Donald Trump was standing. Amen. He gave one of the most bitter, angry, divisive speeches ever delivered in this room. No vision, no solutions, just grievance after grievance after grievance. It was 90 minutes of pure propaganda. It made me sick.
There you go. So it wasn't Al Green's behavior that made him sick. It was Trump's behavior that made him sick. And the Democrats were like, well, you can't blame Al. He was listening to Trump's lies, the propaganda. My God, he was behaving like a normal human being would. Just so that all of you know, this is the same guy who just less than a month ago, okay? Remember now, Trump is, 40 days into his presidency? So Trump is maybe 2 weeks into his presidency. There's Al. Listen to Big Al. So Big Al goes on the floor. And yep, it's time to impeach Trump. Roll cut 28. Mike.
Ethnic cleansing has been a crime against humanity. And I stand here today in the well to denounce what was said, to denounce what the president said, to denounce the complicity of the Prime Minister of Israel, and to remind people that Dr. King was right. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And injustice in Gaza is a threat to justice in the United States of America. I rise to announce that the movement to impeach the president has begun. I rise to announce that I will bring articles of impeachment against the president for dastardly deeds proposed and dastardly deeds done.
Yep. Dastardly deeds. Dastardly deeds. 2 weeks into his presidency. Dastardly deeds. There you go. That's the Democratic Party. Now, I'm telling you, they continue to go down this path. It is the path to political oblivion. Look, the word insane keeps being used more and more to describe Democrats. Watch them, listen to them, look at how they behave. Do they seem normal to you? They don't seem normal to me. Agree, disagree. 617-266-6868 is the number. 50 years ago, definitely 100 years ago, but 50 years ago, most of these Democrats, people like Al Green, people like AOC, people like Elizabeth Warren, people like Maxine Waters, would be put in a mental asylum. They would, I'm telling you, they'd be institutionalized. Today, they help run the country, and they ruin institutions all over the world and here in the United States. So they've gone from the nut house to almost the White House. And under Biden, they were in the White House. That's the sea change in American culture. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Should Al Green have been censured? And what about those that interrupted the censure of Al Green, disrupted it, and then all began to sing, "We shall overcome"? Should they be punished or censured as well? And at this rate, maybe just censure the whole freaking party. 617-266-6868. David in Brookline. Thanks for holding, David, and welcome.
Well, then I sit here in the well of Kuhner country, and I move that we bring back more mental institutions.
David, hold on. I think we got a problem with your phone. Let's see if we can try to reconnect with you there. All right, let's try it again there, Mike. All right, David, we want to know if you sound like a human being. Go ahead.
That's not, I don't know if you heard. I said we need to have.
No, we heard you, David. It's just it's the phone system. David, hang on.
Is that better?
Try it again. Go ahead, David.
Is that better?
Yes. Go ahead, David.
Okay. Aside from that, what prompted my call, Jeff, you said earlier that they were behaving like it was the 1960s again. What's interesting is many years ago, I said to a friend of mine, when President Obama was elected, with that hateful rhetoric, do you remember with the Cambridge police and so forth? I said, he is going to, in opposite of what all you Democrats think, he's not going to bring people together. He's going to set back race relations decades. And now fast forward, and I think in many ways he did do a lot of damage to race relations. And you fast forward now, they're chanting and singing, Jeff, like it's the 1960s. Other than race baiting, bloated bureaucracy, chanting, rabble-rousing, what is it that the Democrats are offering? It almost seems as if we do well, they're not happy. They're only happy if they're increasing the size of government and finally increasing their own bank accounts. My final point is, Jeff, it's so prevalent that nobody's doing anything about it, really, although maybe Doge is. Where does it say in the job description, join government, have a good salary, but become a multi-millionaire? I'd like to see that, because this is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. These very average people are becoming fabulously wealthy. And finally, Jeff, and you've alluded to this, why do they really, 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 from the beginning, hate President Trump? Because he couldn't be bought. He didn't want to be part of it. He didn't need the parties. He didn't need the cocktail hours. He didn't need any of it. He wants to make regular people wealthy. They want to make themselves wealthy.
Oh, David, very well said. Very, very well said. And look, David, let's just for a second, let's stick on this insanity or madness theme, okay? 50 years ago, even 40 years ago, hell, even 30 years ago, hell, even 20 years ago, although it began about 20 years ago, but still, even 20, 25 years ago. Now, just stand back. If someone said a man is a woman and a woman is a man, or they could be a man in the morning, a woman in the afternoon, and maybe be nothing, or multiple people in the evening. That your pronoun could be he or she or it or they or them. What would they say? They say, well, you're crazy. You're dealing with crazy people. Okay, that's the Democratic Party today. If they said 50 years ago, no, we're going to allow 11, 12, 13-year-olds to take puberty blockers and then cut off their genitals, to make a boy transition to a girl, or a girl to transition to a boy. So we're going to cut off their private parts. They'd say, my God, you're sick. You're insane. That's the Democratic Party today. If they said 20, 30, 40 years ago, well, no, we're going to allow biological men to compete in women's sports. To be like, what? Yeah, they're going to go into women's locker rooms, flash their schlong, and, walk around naked, shower in front of them, undress in front of them, and then they're going to compete against women, and they're going to steal all of their trophies and all of their scholarships. They say, you're crazy. Okay, we're going to open up the border. Like, what do you mean open up the border? We're going to open it up. Anybody can come. Just come. But what do you mean? There could be murderers. There could be rapists. There could be terrorists. It doesn't matter. And then we're going to create sanctuary cities. And in those sanctuary cities, they're going to prioritize and put the rights and privileges of criminals over everyday law-abiding American citizens. They'd say, you are nuts. Okay, last one. We're going to want a war with Russia. What? Yes, the country with 6,000 nuclear weapons. The most nuclear weapons in the world. We want an actual war with Russia. We want America to join this other country called Ukraine, and we want to fight and kill Russians and have World War III. They'd be saying, you're mad. What do you want, the end of the world? Are you normal? That's the Democratic Party today. I'm telling you, that's the Democratic Party today. So, yes, they're corrupt, no question. Yes, follow the money, no question. Yes, they're, full of fanatics and perverts and communists. There's no question. But we have to seriously begin to entertain, liberalism is a mental disorder. Are these people now genuinely unhinged? And I'm starting to conclude increasingly yes. And look at the way they behave. They behave like crazy people. When you see a crazy person on the street, it looks like Al Green. They're yelling, screaming, shouting, threatening you with a cane. I see that on Mass and Cass that's Boylston Street. When I walk down Boylston Street, that's what I see. So, and it's not just this, it's everything. And that they don't care, literally don't care for a 13-year-old boy battling brain cancer. They roll their eyes. Mothers whose daughters were butchered, killed by savage illegal aliens, and they roll their eyes. Wee-oo. 617, there's something seriously wrong with them. Morally, spiritually, and yes, psychologically. Now, I don't know what a psychiatrist would diagnose them with. I don't know. But something is wrong. 617-266-6868. David, as always, thank you for that call. Rob in Springfield. Thanks for holding, Rob, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Rob.
All right. Hey, yeah, I had a caller, a woman caller, like a day or two back who described herself as a recovering Democrat. And I love that term. I've been applying it to myself since 2009. Been listening to the show tonight, this morning. It sounds great. I think the "We Shall Overcome" stunt on the House floor was kind of like a probe. And when I say by probe, it's kind of like what enemy forces would do, like to a bunker position or something like that, to see where the weaknesses in the perimeter were. I think it was Johnson's mistake to just go ahead and call a recess. He should have just arrested them all right now. But what we're seeing now is almost like a repeat of history during the Bolshevik Revolution, when all the Bolsheviks basically walked into Parliament, kicked all the czars out. I think the Democrats want to see what they can get away with before Johnson starts pushing back, and he's got to get ahead of this curve, and I mean right now. He's got to get ahead of it now. The Democrats are totally exposed for what they are. They're basically seditious, blue blood, devil-worshipping communist pedophiles, and there's no way getting around that, at least at the leadership level. The grassroots rank and file, they're just along for the ride. They know they're not going to increase their numbers in the House in 2 years from now, even though they're going to try. There's nothing but fake narratives. Everybody knows that they have nothing left but gaslighting and projecting and hitting the self-destruct button. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be coming up in the spring. Well, we got the budget talks that I guess the budget's supposed to run out in a couple of weeks. Then there's midterm on all the college campuses. The days are starting to get warmer and longer. Then there's tax day. You know, there could be it could be proved to be an interesting spring and summer. You know what I mean, Jeff?
Well, look, you touched on a lot, Rob. I wouldn't put anything beyond them now. I really wouldn't. They're becoming increasingly unhinged. You mentioned the Bolsheviks, and honestly, the Democrats now remind me a lot of the Bolsheviks. They really do. A lot of thieves, a lot of criminals, fanatics, mentally ill people. I mean, that was the inner circle of the Bolshevik Party. I mean, those were thugs, hardcore criminals, thugs, some of them just mentally not right in the head, and fanatics, rabid, staunch ideologues. And you give people power like that, the damage they can do is almost limitless. And they're getting more desperate, they're getting more frustrated, they're getting more angry, they're getting more marginalized. So it's like a vicious circle. The more marginalized they become, the more they lash out. The more they lash out, the more marginalized they become. So then, and then they just get more and more outlandish and more outrageous. I think you're already starting to see some calls for violence. You've got some members on the Democrat side, members of Congress, warning now about a revolution, saying that if Trump continues, there's going to be blood on the streets. They're already talking, he's 45 days in, and they're already talking about the blood flowing in the streets. What are they going to start to say by the summer or the fall? And I agree with you. Johnson cannot have allowed them to get away with what they got away with yesterday. Look, think about it from their point of view. They literally disrupted and canceled an entire day of Congress. It's not like they're in session all the time. You're lucky if you get them to work 3 days a week. So for them to be able to suspend an entire day over this clown and then their antics, you're just going to embolden them. And they're not going to stop. So Johnson better get a handle. I agree with you. He better get the reins and get the reins fast. Because I'm telling you, it's going to get worse. It's going to get more dysfunctional. You're going to see more anarchy, more chaos, more havoc on the floor. And they're just getting warmed up. Look, what's amazing is this. I'm going to play the cut and get everybody's reaction. The pressure now that the Democrats are under, you would think the pressure would be, hey guys, moderate, take it easy, stop making clowns and fools of yourselves, behave with a certain proper decency and decorum, some civility. No. The pressure they're getting from the lunatic left in the media and among the grassroots is you got to be more militant. You got to be more in their face. You got to be even more obstructionist. Listen now. This is Sunny Hostin on The View. Listen to her criticism. It's not what you would think. She says all the Democrats should have joined Al Green and walked right out of the hall, out of the chamber when Trump spoke. Roll cut 19, Mike. Mike, what do you mean there's no time, Mike? Okay, Mike says there's not enough time for me to play the cut. I'm going to play it on the other side, okay? I want all of you to hear it. Trust me when I tell you this, okay? This, and by the way, it's not just Sunny Hostin. It's the New York Times. It's the Boston Globe. It's the Washington Post. It's MSDNC. It's This is CNN. Their argument is, no, more people should have shouted. More people should have shaken their canes at Donald Trump. More people should have obstructed him. And then the entire Democratic Party should have walked out in solidarity with Al Green. The pressure they're getting is be even more resistant. 719 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, many of you are making the point, and I think it's an absolutely excellent point, that, Jeff, if carrying a flagpole is considered a threat, like they said it was on January 6th, then what the hell is waving a cane, 20 feet away from the President of the United States? If a flagpole is somehow this deadly weapon and an existential threat to our democracy, then what the hell is that cane? That thing's got to be a deadly weapon and an existential threat to the president and to our country. I'm just saying, by Democrat logic. Now, I want to play this cut because it really sums up the pressure that many Democrats are under to be even more militant, even more extreme, even more fanatical in their opposition to Trump. To be even more, as I said, outlandish. So, listen now to Sunny Hostin on The View saying, I don't blame Al Green. No. I blame the other Democrats for not walking out with him when he was kicked out of the chamber. Roll cut 19, Mike.
While I didn't watch it, I was looking for signs of an opposition party, which is what the Democratic Party must be at this point, not a resistance, because resistance is passive. Opposition is active. And I think that what I saw when Representative Al Green stood up and said, you don't have a mandate to take away Medicaid, and he was tossed out. I expected the rest of his Democratic caucus, the rest of his colleagues to walk out with him. Because alone you can survive, but together you thrive. That is the energy that we need. They should have stood with him in solidarity. And we had Karine Jean-Pierre here on this show yesterday, and she said we have to have a sense of urgency as we move forward, and we cannot do it the way we have in the past. This is not normal. It is a five-alarm fire. And what I want to say to the Democrats is you can't play by the rules with a party that has thrown away the rule book.
There you go. There you go. Don't play by the rules. It's a five-alarm fire. I mean, they're just amping up the rhetoric, pouring more gasoline on the fire. So think of this. Just think about what they're proposing now, okay? Just objectively. You can't sit through a president's joint address to Congress, which has been done, basically a State of the Union, which we have done since the beginning of our history. No, you can't do that anymore? You literally can't sit there and listen to the president. And my suggestion, when they're praising a 13-year-old boy with brain cancer, maybe you should get up and clap. Or when they're spotlighting or showing sympathy and empathy for mothers who've lost their daughters to savage illegal aliens, maybe you should get up and clap and say, I understand, I feel your pain. But they can't even do that. But think of what they're now telling us. Again, the breakdown, the complete breakdown in civility, the complete breakdown in our ability to even talk or communicate with each other, the complete breakdown in our entire system. So now you're all going to storm out of Congress like children, petulant little insolent children, because the president delivered his speech, which, by the way, was very similar to what his speech was on the campaign trail. He didn't deviate much from what he said on the campaign trail. He was just listing his accomplishments for the first 40 days. Basically, promises made, promises kept. That was really the essence of his address to the country. I ran on these issues, and within 40 days, look how much I've done. And the best is yet to come. Now, you may disagree. You may want to oppose him. You may want to present an alternative. And that's the other thing. What's the alternative? Normally, an opposition party says, you're wrong, here's why you're wrong, and this is what we're proposing instead. There's no alternative. They've become now political nihilists and political arsonists. Now it's just torch it. Just burn the whole damn thing down. In the name of mindless, and notice now, resistance is not enough. It's got to be opposition. Opposition. Now, what else do you want to say at this point? What's next? We're going to start giving members of Congress clubs, baseball bats, canes, pipes, so they can start smashing people over the head? Like, is that the next? Is that your resistance? Is that your opposition now? Because we've thrown out the rule book, apparently. Again, what rule book have we thrown out? And again, for the 50th time, no one is cutting Medicaid. No one's cutting Medicare. But even if he did cut Medicaid, which he's not, and even if he did cut Medicare, then there's something called elections. And you beat the party in power in the midterms. To me, it's just they oppose Trump's policies. He's imposing his policies. He's implementing them. And they're saying, well, that's throwing out the rule book. So you're never supposed to lose? So the bureaucracy is supposed to be permanent? Is that what you're telling me? The corruption has to be permanent? DEI has to be permanent? Transgenderism has to be permanent? The open border has to be permanent? What this is, to use their language, they are the ones who are attacking democracy. They refuse to accept the results of the election. Now, I'm sorry. Trump won. You lost. Live with it. Deal with it. But they can't. 7:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, my friends, lines are jammed. I want to go right to the phone lines. But I want to play one more cut. And it's not even a cut. How do I say this? It's a TikTok page. I'm sure most of you have heard the story. 6 prominent Democrat progressives, okay, far left Democrats. AOC, Jasmine Crockett, Catherine Clark, our own Massachusetts' Catherine Clark, Jessica Wu, you've got Lauren Underwood, all of them. It's something out of a video game. I think it's a Mario Brothers Smash video game where you see them. They're dressed like they're in pantsuits, all 6 of these members of Congress, but they're almost like in a karate stance or in a martial arts stance. And it's like we're a character in this video game. We're fighters. Like, I don't know, one's a ninja, one's an assassin, whatever, one's a superheroine. And they're like, some of them are throwing kicks, some of them are throwing punches. So it's just a couple seconds of one member, a couple seconds of AOC trying to be like Bruce Lee. And then it's another one of Catherine Clark, who's trying to think like she's Superwoman, like throwing punches at the camera. And then there's like Jasmine Crockett, who's sort of like in a judo position. It's the weirdest, most bizarre thing I've ever seen. And they're not saying anything. It's just, fighter, be ready. That's all you hear. Fighter, be ready. So they're trying to act like they're part of this video game of female warriors and female superheroines. Anyway, I'm going to play a little bit of the audio. Try to picture them pantsuits and throwing punches at the camera or kicks. And, like Catherine, you got some of these women, they're in their 50s and 60s. But there they are, kicks and punches at the camera. Roll cut 20. Mike.
Who's your character?
And underneath it, in the chat or the Chiron, it's written, ready to fight. Like straight out of the video game. Ready to fight. They're ready to fight. Now, again, my Ashton wouldn't even find that funny. He plays video, by the way, he loves video games. He's always playing video games. I'm telling you, it's like World War III to get him off his video games. Okay? But let that go. Yeah, Mike says he plays Smash Bros. And he says it's actually pretty fun. So it's out of... Oh, you used to play it when you were a kid. Oh, it's Mario. Mario Smash Brothers. So even Mike doesn't play it anymore. And you're a bit of a gamer, right, Mike? Yeah, he's a bit of a gamer. And he outgrew, Smash Bros. What is it, Smash Bros? Yeah, Super Mario's Smash Brothers. Yeah, so there you go. So Smash Bros is the short way to say it. So, yeah, it's like Mortal Kombat. So, Mike is so basically it's games for kids and teenagers. And, they're trying to act like they're a character in that video game. So these 6 female members of Congress. How more empty, more vacuous, more silly, more, just childlike. What are you, children? These are women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And you're literally behaving in ways that my Ava wouldn't behave. She's 12. So, with all of this, the Cooner Country poll question of the day. I'd love for you to vote, as many of you as possible. It's sponsored by Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Okay? Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Do you think the Democrat Party will even exist by 2028? In other words, with all of these childish, irresponsible, outrageous, frankly at times disgusting antics, do you think that they're so marginalizing themselves that the American people will no longer even take them seriously? Do you think they're on the road to political extinction and political oblivion? Will the Democrats no longer exist by 2028? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage. WRKO.com/Kuhner, WRKO.com/Kuhner, KUHN is in national ER. You can also vote via X, my handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report. KUHN is in national ER. Carrie in West Bridgewater. Thanks for holding, Carrie, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Jeff, I really wonder if the Democrat Party will exist in its current iteration in 2028, because you would think after the shellacking they got in 2024, and they got their rear ends handed to them, there would be some sort of self-reflection, some sort of kind of a come to Jesus moment. Our message isn't working. The people are rejecting us. And yet instead, they're doubling down. They will absolutely refuse to concede. 80% of Americans do not want boys in girls' locker rooms, in girls' sports. It's the hill they're willing to die on. They won't give it up. Americans overwhelmingly reject open borders. We want illegal aliens, violent criminals deported. They won't even consider it. It's just, they call you racist. I think they're floundering because their former tactics, which is if you disagree, you're a racist, you're a xenophobe, you're, whatever ism or ist that they can throw at you. It just doesn't seem to be working, but they have no message. They have no human dignity. I saw that video yesterday. I would rather be embarrassed for myself than embarrassed for other people, because at least if I'm doing something silly, I can stop. But when you're watching other people make jackasses out of themselves, you can't stop them. And there they were, that video, these shrill, mean, nasty women making utter fools of themselves. I don't know who that was supposed to appeal to. I have no idea who is advising them to do these things, but I say keep it up, because it's working, but not in the way they expect it to work. They look like idiots.
Oh, Carrie, I agree with you. Not, as I like to say, not 100, but 1,000%. And look, this wasn't just 6 no-namers, right? Like, who are these people? This is Alexandria Fidel Castro Cortez. She's really the leader of the hard left, or the progressive wing of the Democrats in the House. She's the face of the Democratic Party in many ways. Catherine Clark from Massachusetts is number 2. She's number 2 to Hakeem Jeffries. She's the second most powerful Democrat in the House. Jasmine Crockett now is becoming a Democrat superstar. I mean, she's a moron and an imbecile. But you can't turn on the TV without seeing her going on about Donald Trump and ranting and raving, and it's time for an insurrection, and, it's time for a revolution. And so you're looking, and the others are been in Congress for quite a while. They sit on many committees. I've got to ask you, Carrie, Al Green and what we saw yesterday on the House floor, the obstruction, the disruption, the singing of the We Shall Overcome, and all these other Democrats. Is censure even enough at this point? Because it's effectively a slap on the wrist. What say you?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, shame on his constituents for keeping him in office to begin with. I'm really concerned that I think we're reaching a tipping point. They're always talking about unity. That was the criticism of Trump's speech the other night. There was no unifying message. I don't particularly want to unify with baby killing.
Yeah. No, you're right. With baby killing, open borders, pro-transgender, communist Democrats. What is there to unify with? And they're getting more extreme, more hysterical, more outlandish by the day. 7:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, liberalism's worst nightmare, baby. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, just very, very quick. Because the Democrats and the media are melting down over the censure of Al Green. And as I said in my opening monologue, and I don't want to repeat myself, but I mean, if what he did doesn't deserve censure, I mean, my God, then what's the point of having censure? So you're interrupting repeatedly the President of the United States. You're talking over him. You're not letting him be able to speak. Then you're, approaching him and shaking your cane and waving it at him. And to the point you become so disruptive and so threatening that the Speaker of the House has to literally interrupt the speech. The whole country is watching. It says, look, you're out of line. You're violating decorum. You're violating the rules. Please, I don't want to have to kick you out. Sit down. He goes, no, I'm not sitting down. And he gets even more unruly. And he says one more time, I'm giving you the last chance. Don't do it. Sit down. And he won't do it. And then he admits afterwards, I can play you the cut. It was all intentional. He goes, no, I wasn't just like I lost my top and it was emotional. I just lost control of my emotions. He's like, no, I was there to interrupt and disrupt and obstruct him. Period. Full stop. I was not going to stop. I was going to yell and scream and shake my cane at the guy and talk over the president the whole speech if I could. So he gets kicked out. And Democrats are claiming racism over this? And I'm like, okay, he gets censured. It's really a slap on the wrist. You don't even pay a fine. Like nothing happens. I mean, it's a bit of a black mark. It's a bit of a black eye. You'll always go down in history. Congressman Al Green was censured. So it's a bit of a black mark, but it doesn't cost you anything. You don't go to jail. You don't face any penalty. You're not out of any money. I mean, okay, you're censured and it's like, okay, go to the corner. Okay, go back now. Go back to your seat. I want to read this from Marianne. It's a really, really good message that she sent me on Messenger. Jeff, censuring Al Green does nothing. A formal reprimand is nothing. And he doesn't give a rat's behind about that because they're not taking any of his rights and privileges as a congressman away. Big deal. They're giving him a slap on the wrist and calling him a bad boy. And any attempt to impeach Trump again is nothing but a waste of time and taxpayer money because they can't do it this time. They don't have the votes. And even if they were able to, even if they're able to get him out of office, who's next in line? J.D. Vance? They hate J.D. as much as they hate Trump. Excellent points, Marianne. But I just want to focus on, even censure. What's censure? It's, as she put it, I thought very well, it's a formal reprimand. Okay, it's a proverbial, there you go, slap on the wrist. Bad boy, Al. Bad boy. Now go back to your seat, Al. That's it? That's it? The J6ers rot in a gulag for years. And this guy gets, a censure, an asterisk put next to his name. And the Democrats are acting like it's the second coming of Jim Crow. And it costs us a whole day in Congress. Nothing else gets done. They had to suspend the session. I'm sorry. Pathetic. They have to face real consequences, or else the Democrats are not going to stop. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Mel in New York. Thanks for holding, Mel. And as always, welcome.
Yes, good morning, Jeff. In regards to Al Green with his slicked back knots and his baby shots hairdo, if you listen to what Sonny Hostin was about to say, she caught herself. She said when he stood up and he held it, then she stopped, held his cane, what she was going to say. But Jeff, that's attempted assault. And I don't know where Capitol Police were at. That guy, he should have been arrested. Really, instead of being removed from the chamber, he should have been arrested. You do approach somebody menacing like that, which he was, because he got up out of the seat and he took a few steps and he held that cane. That's attempted assault. He should have been arrested. But this guy, Al Green, if he was in front of me right now, Jeff, I'd smack the fool out of him. That's what my mother would tell us kids. You do something foolish, I'm going to smack the fool out of you because you're nothing but a fool, So I'm going to smack it right out of you. So, but the fact is that, Jeff, they have no agenda. Now it's all violence because they have no agenda to run on. You take these soy boys that they have on their side and their constituents. They don't know how to bait a hook, let alone load a rifle. If they want to take it to the street, there's plenty of us conservatives out here who are ready. And in so many words, you know what I'm talking about. It ain't like we're just sitting around sitting ducks. So they better think twice about what foolishness they may want to pull, because it ain't going to work. It ain't going to be pretty for them. I'll tell you that right now. It's just insanity. And what they did on the floor with the Negro hymn of "We Will Overcome." You know what? Black Democrats, they are an embarrassment because they don't know the history of the Democrat Party. The Dixiecrats, way down deep south. Those are the ones who wanted to filibuster slavery, didn't want to end it down south, and that you had Jim Crow, as you mentioned earlier. Get on the back of the bus. You can't drink from this fountain. You can't use that bathroom. You can't come to my restaurant. You want to eat, you got to come to the back door and get your stuff, get what you want to eat, and get out of here. Now I remember, I wasn't born in the South, but I had friends of mine whose parents had family that lived in the South, and every Thanksgiving, Christmas, they'd go down, visit, have the holiday down there. But they would always say, never let that gas tank run below half tank. Because you run out of gas on them back roads, going down there, especially in the middle of the night, they may never see you again. But whenever that gas tank never got below half, you stop at the gas station, fill up again. Don't ever let it get down below half, because that was almost a death march there. So that's the Democrat Party. Now, Joe Biden, he got taken under the wings of Jesse Helms, Strom Thurmond, and not to mention, those are hardcore down deep south Ku Kluxers. Believe me, they had no empathy for no black people. But the blacks in the Democrat Party today, what the hell are they thinking about? They don't know what. And
Mel, I promise I'll let you finish. I don't mean to cut you off, but I just got to add a third name because you're right. Robert Byrd, an actual Cyclops, Grand Cyclops of the Ku Klux Klan, and Joe Biden said he was my mentor, not just my dear friend, my mentor. And when Robert Byrd died, he wept like a child. Joe Biden was like, oh, my God, it's like I lost an older brother. He was my friend. He was my mentor. He was almost like blood to me. So you're completely right, Mel. Please keep going. But I'll never forget Robert Byrd. And, we're not talking about, some guy, wink, wink with the KKK. No. He literally wasn't just a member of the KKK. He was the Grand Cyclops of the KKK. Please keep going, Mel.
Yeah, you take guys as far as Hillary Clinton. That was her mentor also. I believe she eulogized him. And
that's right. She delivered the eulogy. That's right.
But these they don't realize the black Democrats and the Democrat Party, like the House of Representatives, they are just tools of that white liberal gated community, society that don't give two rats behind about those black members of the Democrat Party. They're just being used and abused. When they get that last bit of juice out of them, they're going to find something on them, and they're going to strip them from all they got, and that's going to be the end of them. It's like I think I mentioned to you about old Al Shady Sharpton. Whenever they get behind in the polls and stuff like that, where's he at? He's up in Harlem, up at what's the name's restaurant up there. They tell that, get your black ass out there and get these black folks behind us because we're losing. And Sharpton, they got the receipts on him. They know what he's Al. You know, we're gonna get you. We're gonna turn you over as far as his tax evading. And Jesse Jackson, you know, they got the goods on them guys, and they're just tools. And like you say, AOC, she's Hispanic from up there in the Bronx. So no, she wasn't from the Bronx. She's from one of the most wealthiest zip codes in
Westchester County.
Westchester County.
Yeah, she plays the whole Bronx card, but in fact she comes from one of the most privileged neighborhoods and communities in the country. No, look, Mel, you're really you are clicking on all cylinders today, my friend. So look, I think the race card, they've used it and played it so often, nobody believes them anymore. And I think what's starting to happen is they're becoming so outrageous, so offensive, so pathetic, so petty, so adolescent, that it's becoming now an 80-20 country. You know, as I said a couple days ago, you go through the polls on the issues, Trump is beating the Democrats 80-20. Now with the Democrats, is outrageous, obscene behavior, really, this deranged behavior, I think I think Elon's right. I think Republicans now can get 60 Senate seats and really expand their majority in the House. And 60 is key because that means you can't even filibuster anything. That means the Republicans can just pass anything in the Senate. No obstruction, no filibuster. The Democrats have no leverage or power whatsoever. So if they want to keep behaving like clowns, go ahead. I don't know what else to say. It's their political funeral. Mel, as always, thank you for that call. 8 o'clock, my friends. You know what that means. Kuhner's call log, caller of the week.
It's time for Kuhner's call log, where we showcase our favorite caller from the week.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Thanks for holding, Ellie.
I'm a recovering Democrat, and I have never seen an entire group of people in more need of a 12-step program in my life. These people need help. I mean, looking at them, all I could see was a bunch of people with blood dripping from their hands at the death and carnage of people all over the world. And Pocahontas there smirking and smiling at the carnage of people being sacrificed in war. It was almost like bloodlust. It's disgusting. These are the poster children of the World Economic Forum and the WHO and the New World Order. No natural human compassion, no empathy, no heart. They just sat in front of the entire world and they showed all that blood just dripping from their hands because they could care less about anybody. These are the same type of people that would have cheered at the sight of human sacrifices way back in the old days.
And next week, it could be you on Kuhner's call log.
Please, don't be a stranger. Call again. Honestly, last couple weeks, I don't know what's gotten into the callers, but they're taking it to a different dimension. So keep them coming, Kuhner Country, because I'm telling you, the callers, are a big part of this show. 617-266-6868. I love you in a non-sexual way. Okay. Al Green, I mentioned this earlier, didn't just disrupt Trump, didn't just threaten him with the cane, wasn't just ejected from Congress, and then they turned that censure yesterday into a spectacle on the House floor with all these Democrats rushing to his defense, like he was being lynched or something. It's just a censure, man. I mean, you know how many Republicans have been censured? How many Democrats have been censured? And they're singing, "We shall overcome." And basically they had to cancel the session yesterday. So he also he's the first one to have introduced articles of impeachment against Trump. Maybe 2 weeks into Trump's presidency. Now, I just want you to listen to the reaction he got. He went on C-SPAN, plugging his articles of impeachment, and the American people were not happy. This is what I mean when I say it's becoming an 80-20 country. They're getting sick of these antics. And it's driving more and more people into Trump, his tent, into the Republican Party, and in opposition to the fanatical radical Democrats. Roll cut 28A, Mike.
Richard in Savannah, Georgia, Republican. You're up first, Richard.
Thank you. I watched you yesterday with the Democrat Party out protesting everything that Elon Musk is trying to do for the American people. The USAID is a 100% a money laundering scheme around the world, kickbacks back to the Democrat Party, whether it's through the Clinton Foundation in Haiti, $4.4 billion, and $84 million went to her daughter, Chelsea Clinton. All y'all have is impeachments and race and gender, et cetera, and you actually do nothing for the people of America today. I think the Democrats should sit back and let America see what it's like to reduce the people in government, the wasteful spending. And all y'all can do is just complain and be negative, and we're sick of it.
Or shake your cane. and yell and scream over Trump as he talks to the country. That's all they have. Now it's cane shaking. Now, I got to ask all of you this. And I mean, that was Al Green, by the way. He was on C-SPAN. I mean, and he was call after call. They were just giving it to him with both barrels, baby. Now, I just want to mention one quick thing. Nancy Pelosi. She was there. She had her cane. But unlike Big Al, okay, unlike Al Green, she wasn't waving it or shaking it at Trump. No. For some reason, I don't know why, she kept sucking and gnawing on her cane. Now, the speculation is it's maybe the dentures kept coming off. I don't know what, she had a problem with her teeth or something. And it's like, get it back in there. No, hold on. Dang, it keeps coming off. Okay, let me jam it back in there with the cane. I don't know what it was, but that cane was in her mouth half of the speech. So, but at least to give her her due, she wasn't trying to use it as a weapon. But Democrats love canes. For some reason, and notice now, there are so many of these Democrats way into their 80s, into their 90s. I mean, I'm looking at them and I'm like, that one's got a cane. That one's got that one's in a wheelchair. That's another one with a cane. No, that one is that's two canes. That person needs two canes to walk. Okay. That one again is in a wheelchair. That one is in a cane. That's another thing. If you're going to be a warrior party, if you're going to be a party of the resistance, la resistance, if you're going to be a party of, political warriors who are, going to fight, you got to get younger, man. I'm just saying. You got to get younger because 85, 90-year-olds with canes or in wheelchairs, you can't do much with that. I'm just saying. You're not scaring anybody. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Karen in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Karen, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. I have a friend she's in recovery. Well, she has a broken ankle, and she basically since November. But, this person, she's still registered Democrat, and she said she's so ashamed that she really can't change her registration. She's not driving or anything. Well, she listened to the whole Trump speech, as did I. but not only once, but twice when they did the replay on Fox. And, to not feel compassion and empathy, I mean, this is a real lack of a civilized, attitude. But, the idea that they want to be rebels, they find some kind of, I don't know, warrior mentality here, but it's excuse me, it's exactly the opposite, I think, of, we saw in the French Revolution. Yes, they got carried away to extremes with their freedom. They did not really understand what it was based on. It starts with, respect, and that's what's lacking so much. If you don't have respect for the other person, you can't have unity. And this is absolutely essential for survival. So we have a lot of work to do to try to dialogue. That's what it used to be. People would talk about, trying to communicate with one another, but there's no communicating with someone whose ears and eyes and mind is so blocked, it's so biased. It's really deplorable. So,
Karen, the phrase that you're completely right. You're completely right. The phrase that comes to mind is blind with hatred and anger. And it's like Bill in Sudbury or Frank in Gloucester. They so hate us. They so hate Trump. And in many ways, they so hate America that they've become blinded by hatred. And that's what you're seeing now with the Democratic Party. And you see, they don't get it. Like, that to me is what's amazing. The whole country is telling them we're disgusted. You can't even stand and clap for a 13-year-old boy with brain cancer? Like, are you normal? You can't even stand and recognize not one, but two mothers whose daughters were brutally murdered. One was raped, an 11-year-old girl was raped and then murdered. And you can't recognize their pain and show some sympathy and empathy? That's what hate does to you. In many ways, it corrodes your soul. Like 8:20 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. All right, this is from Mark on Messenger. Jeff. Nancy Pelosi, this is true, by the way. Nancy Pelosi had the Ukraine flag on her cane. And it was probably soaked in Smirnoff vodka. That's why she kept sucking on it. I mean, it was strange. I swear, if you ever get the chance to see the speech again, it's like, why is the cane in her mouth the whole time? She's sucking on it, she's gnawing on it, she's licking it, I swear to God, these Democrats. 617-266-6868. Okay, this is from my sister Jennifer in Tucson, Arizona. She's really upset about these the videos of the six Democrat members of Congress, the female Democrats, AOC, Catherine Clark, Jasmine Crockett, and a couple of others, doing a Mario Brothers smash video imitation. Jeff, speaking of government efficiency, or rather in this case inefficiency, we pay salaries for these losers to sit around and make videos? How about they actually work for a change? Here's a novel idea. Go speak to your constituents. That's a really good point. Like, this is how you spend our money? Making these cringe, childish videos? As Carrie and West Bridgewater said, idiots. They look like idiots in that video. 617. That's our money. We're paying for all this. 617-266-6868. Tom in Framingham. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Tom.
Your poll question was whether or not they're going to have a party in 2028. And I think they are. And the reason they are is because they've got a lifeline. And that lifeline is the federal court system. And one of the biggest problems in the federal court system now is Amy Coney Barrett. The most recent decision about the freezing of USAID, the court voted 5-4 to prevent Trump from continuing the freeze on USAID. And predictably, John Roberts voted with the liberals, and so did Amy Coney Barrett. And Amy Coney Barrett has been betrayed this part of herself a long time ago. And one of the things is when presidential immunity was decided in the Supreme Court, whether that the president had limited immunity for acts that were associated with being president, she had to put in her own side writing. And her side writing said yes, but that does not specifically, yes, but that does not include selecting fake electors. Now, there's no crime in selecting new electors when a lot of your own electors defected after the 2020 election. And the way electors are chosen in the first place is just a pure political exercise of hacks. The state committee is the one who chooses the electors. Okay, so the state committee gets together and they vote on who the electors are going to be. So basically, your friend may own a car dealership, and he'll want his son to be one of the electors.
No, you're right. It's cronies. Yeah, you're right. No, they're basically cronies. Yeah, you call them hacks, but yeah, they're cronies. No, look, to get to the heart of the issue, because I think, Tom, I'm very happy you raised it. This was an unbelievable decision. A couple days ago, Supreme Court ruled 5-4, upholding a Biden judge. This was a radical left-wing Biden judge who from the district court of D.C. Okay, he's a district judge who literally ordered Trump to unfreeze billions of dollars in USAID money. Now, as Sam Alito in his scathing dissent pointed out, he was shocked. He said, "You mean to tell me that now the precedent is being established by the Supreme Court that one judge, a low district judge, is now president of the United States? Can literally usurp the power of the presidency and the executive branch? And literally force the president to distribute foreign aid against the will of the president?" He goes, our constitutional system will never recover from this. That means essentially a judge can force the president to do anything on anything. And that Amy Coney Barrett, now look, it's obvious Roberts is being blackmailed. There's no question, okay? But that Amy Coney Barrett would join Roberts and the three liberals in upholding that left-wing Biden hacks decision, to me, is disgraceful. I think they're threatening her children. That's my theory. 8:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, lines are loaded. I promise I'm going to go right back to the phone lines. But first, one of the reasons why, well, there's many reasons, but one of the key reasons why this clownish, buffoonish, childish, honestly idiotic behavior from the Democrats is so dangerous is because now we are clearly about to enter a very perilous phase when it comes to foreign policy and in particular American involvement in the world, both in the Middle East and, of course, regarding Russia, Ukraine, and the possibility now of peace. I want you to listen to Marco Rubio, because I think he's now laid it out very clearly. The level of Trump derangement syndrome, the irrational madness that is driving this opposition to Trump, they now prefer as a party, the Democrats now prefer war over peace. They literally prefer being warmongers to peacemakers. And now they're condemning and excoriating Trump, not for wanting war, not for starting wars, but for ending wars. Roll cut 15, Mike.
It's hard to follow up when the other side of the conflict is saying they're not interested in peace at all. And that was the message that was coming across. Hopefully that's been corrected. I hope that's going to be corrected more clearly. And then I think that opens the door to figure out whether this is possible. By the way, this should be a mystery to no one. The president, when he was a candidate and he was running, he said very clearly this is a war that never would have happened, and I believe that to be true had he been president, and we need to bring it to an end. He's working to become, he wants to be a peacemaker. Usually, and I made this point in multiple interviews, usually people are happy when our president, the president of the most powerful country in the world, is looking to prevent wars and to end wars. Somehow when it's Donald Trump that's doing it, it's somehow a horrible thing. So as I've said, it's important for us to understand we are blessed and fortunate to have a president that is looking to bring an end, if possible, to a conflict that's cost billions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of lives and destruction that'll take a generation for Ukrainians and others to be able to recover from.
Bingo. He's right. Right? Think about it. When Obama said he was going to wind down the war in Iraq, said, give him the Nobel Peace Prize. He's a great president. Oh, what a president. One of the best of all time. But when Trump, and by the way, the slaughter between Russia and Ukraine, infinitely worse than what was going on in Iraq. Now, I know it was dealing with our troops, of course, but look, I'm not the only one who's made this observation. Many people, Ukraine experts, Russia experts, people who have visited the front lines. Here, Douglas Murray has a big piece in the New York Post today. He was just in Ukraine on the front line. And he says, I'm telling you, you're watching a repeat of the trench warfare of World War I. It's a slaughter. They move a couple miles this way, they move a couple miles the other way, and it's just dead bodies everywhere. It's World War I slaughter and bloodshed. And so here you have a president who says, let's end this. End the carnage. End the meat grinder. End all of this senseless killing. And he's being excoriated. He's being attacked relentlessly, being pro-Russia, pro-Putin. He's a puppet of Putin. So peace now equals Putin? I mean, this is how you look at them and you're like, so if you oppose the Iraq war, what, you're pro-Saddam? Is that now that if you oppose the occupation of Afghanistan for 20 years, what, you're pro-Taliban? I mean, this is the logic now of the liberal mind. But my point is this. Trump is not just making a big move regarding Ukraine, and I'm going to get to Ukraine soon. He's making a big move now when it comes to Hamas. And potentially now ending that war as well. He met yesterday with 8 hostage survivors, Israelis. Many of them were held for over 400 days. 400 days. And their stories were absolutely harrowing. The torture, there were women there, the constant rapes, what they witnessed. As one woman said, there was a boy who was with us, an Israeli boy, and Hamas came for the hell of it. He was chained to the wall in a tunnel where many of us had a hard time breathing, and they just smiled and cut that boy's hand off. That's the kind of people we're dealing with. The kind of savages and sadists who took pleasure in torture, in murder, in beating, in raping Israeli women and torturing Israeli men. And I want you to listen, because one of them said, Mr. President, you need to know this. What kept our hope alive, and the reason why we're here today, is because of you. That you would win the election. That you would become the next president. Because we knew that if you would be president, some of us would have a chance to come home. And there are still other Israelis. One of them says, my younger brother is still being held and beaten and tortured. And God knows what else they're doing to him. Please bring all of the hostages home. Roll cut 13, Mike.
My family and I myself, we believe you've been sent by God to release them. You can really help. Yes. You have the power to do it.
You are our hope when we were there, and now you're their hope.
Yeah.
So you didn't think until I came along, you didn't think you were going to get out?
No.
Once you were elected, we heard that you want to do everything to make a deal as soon as possible. And
they were still happy. Yeah. Well, we said you better let us have those people back.
Yeah.
You better let them out. We did say that, and something happened, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Now we got to get the rest out. Please do it again. Yes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Very hard.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
By the way, can I just say something? Okay. Look at how grateful these Israelis are. Look at them. They thank them constantly, profusely, nonstop. They would say a few sentences, thank you. Say a few more sentences, thank you. You know, shaking his hand, and you know when you shake someone's hand, like warmly shaking it, and with both hands clutching his hand. Unlike Zelensky, just to show you the difference, and his Ukrainian entourage. You know? Why you no give us 200 billion more? Why? Why you no write me blank check? Why? We're like Biden. What's the matter now? Now you no write blank check? How dare you? Oh, hey, JD, what you know about diplomacy? What you know about Russia? What you know about Ukraine? So you see the difference in gratitude, in compassion, in understanding, in empathy, in appreciation. This is what Trump, after he met with these 8 freed hostages, and where one of them said, look, I'm going to be honest with you, we, all of us here, and they're all nodding their head, we believe that God saved you and to make you president to rescue us. We truly believe it, that God has a divine mission for you. And you gave us hope. You were our hope. And you're the hope of those now still in those tunnels, still being held by Hamas. Well, here is what Trump wrote on Truth Social in an explicit now warning to Hamas. They are holding live hostages and dead hostages. By the way, who the hell holds dead bodies? Who the hell holds dead bodies? Like, how sick do you have to be? This is what Trump wrote on Truth Social, right directly to the leadership of Hamas. Honestly, I've never seen this kind of verbal and moral clarity in decades. In decades. How much time left, Mike? Okay, I don't have time to read it. I'm going to read it on the other side. But I am telling you, it is a thunderbolt. It is a thunderbolt that is going to shake the Middle East to its very foundations. I'm going to read it, take more of your calls. Trust me, you're going to want to hear it. Next. Shalom Hamas. 8:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull. Okay, so as I said, Trump met with 8 freed hostages, Israelis, in the White House yesterday. Clearly very moved and touched by what they had to tell him. He then, I've rarely seen, as I said, such moral, verbal clarity and forcefulness as the official statement that he released on Truth Social, which went all over the world. And it went all over the Middle East. And here is what he wrote directly to the leadership of Hamas. They are still holding Israeli hostages. They are, even some of them with dead bodies. Live hostages and dead hostages. Here is what he wrote. Quote, Shalom Hamas. It means hello and goodbye. You can choose. Release all of the hostages now, not later, and immediately return all of the dead bodies of the people you murdered, or it is, and this is all in caps, or it is over for you. Only sick and twisted people keep bodies, and you are sick and twisted. I am sending Israel everything it needs to finish the job. Not a single Hamas member will be safe if you don't do as I say. I have just met with your former hostages whose lives you have destroyed. This is your last warning. For the leadership, now is the time to leave Gaza while you still have a chance. Also, to the people of Gaza, a beautiful future awaits, but not if you hold hostages. If you do, you are, all in caps, dead. Make a smart decision. And then all in caps, release the hostages now, or there will be hell to pay later. President Donald J. Trump. And as Scott Johnson wrote, and I think he hit the nail on the head, so let it be written, so let it be done. Now, let me just say this. It's incredibly powerful. Steve Witkoff, his Middle East envoy, is heading to the Middle East. I think he's going to be meeting with the leadership of Hamas, I believe, on Tuesday. It'll either be Monday or Tuesday, but early next week. And now he's basically Trump has given Hamas now the ultimate ultimatum. Either you release all the hostages, both live and dead, or I'm telling you, you guys are going to get annihilated. I'm going to unleash hell, primarily, I believe, through Israel, through Bibi Netanyahu and the Israeli military. We're going to arm Israel to the teeth, and they're going to finish this. But even if the United States needs to help Israel, we will do whatever needs to be done, but it's over. You're not going to hold these hostages any longer. You're not going to keep these dead bodies. And as he told them, you are sick and twisted. Now, what this means is we are now going to be tied to the hip with Israel if Hamas does not comply. And they are crazy enough not to comply. They really are that fanatical and that negligent and cold-blooded, cold-hearted when it comes to the loss of civilian life. They are willing to sacrifice every and all Palestinians, if need be, in their holy war against Israel. So they're that reckless and irresponsible. And frankly, I think that's sadistic. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if there's something sane that emerges from the Hamas leadership. Maybe there's going to be a sane one in the bunch that says, you know what, we better release the hostages, or else we're going to be wiped off the face of the earth. But who knows? Israel may have to move in again, and the fighting will be hard, it will be dirty, it will be nasty, and it will be violent. It will be bloody. And the Democrats are going to oppose Trump every step of the way. Every step of the way. They're going to undermine him. Al Green says he wants to impeach him for his support for Israel. AOC says she's going to take protests to the streets. Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Ed Markey, Gavin Newsom, Adam Piece of Schiff, the senator from California, say they're going to hold massive peace marches and demonstrations against Trump should he throw all his weight behind Israel to knock out and decapitate Hamas. So what I find incredible is when it comes to dealing with Islamic terrorists who commit the most heinous, bloodthirsty, unimaginable crimes, then the Democrats are for peace. Then they want to coddle and protect Hamas and keep those hostages in the tunnels and keep them tortured and keep them barely alive. But when it comes to ending millions and millions of people dead, maimed, and wounded in a senseless war where no side can win and with no victory in sight for anybody, that they just want to keep going. Just keep it going and fight to the last Ukrainian. My question to you, do you support Trump in his full support for Israel? And is he right to give Hamas such an ultimatum? 617-266-6868. I'm with Trump all the way on this. Enough is enough. Those hostages have suffered enough. Hamas has thumbed its nose at the world enough. It's either put up or shut up. Hand over all the hostages, including the dead bodies, so they can be respectfully buried. If they don't, destroy them. Destroy every single Hamas militant. Rain hell on Hamas. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Lines are jammed. Rose in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Rose, and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff, I'm going to go back to your previous topic.
Yes.
And I want people to remember history. I want people to remember what happened to Charles Sumner. He was attacked. He was attacked with a cane on the floor of the Senate. Remember history.
That's right. That was in the 1850s, where he attacked a South Carolina member of Congress over the issue of slavery. And one of his friends, who also a member of Congress, waited for him on the steps of Congress with a cane. And he beat Charles Sumner, he beat Charles Sumner senseless. I mean, he almost killed him. And Sumner never really recovered from his injuries and eventually died. And honestly, as someone who taught American history, Rose, I'm not saying it was the reason, but it was one of the reasons that led to the Civil War.
Remember history.
Rose, I'm just curious, what do you make of the fact that even when the Republicans wanted to censure Al Green, and he was clearly menacing Trump, there's no getting around it. He was clearly threatening Trump. He was waving his cane. He was, shaking it. He was doing it in emotion, like I'm going to hit you in the head. And then every time Johnson said, you're out of order, sit down, he kept coming closer and closer and getting angrier and shaking the cane even harder. And so he gets censured. And even as they're trying to censure him, all of these Democrats pour down to the well of the House, surround him as if they're defending him, and starts singing we shall overcome, and basically bedlam breaks out over the floor of Congress to the point that he can't continue. Johnson can't continue the session of Congress, and he has to suspend it for the whole day. What did you make of the censure and how the Democrats turned that into an absolute fiasco?
I found it to be childlike. I found it to be unprofessional. And when you have no moral standing, that's when you act that way. He should have been censured, and the Democrats should have all voted for the censure, because this will allow this type of childish behavior to become the norm, and we cannot allow that to happen.
Rose, and I'm not trying to be provocative, I'm asking you an honest question, like we were in the confessional. If you were at our house for dinner or whatever, and we're retiring to the living room, Grace and my kids with you, and we're having coffee or whatever, this is the question I would ask you. Do you honestly fear, do you think this is now a real possibility, that the next time it won't be the shaking of a cane? It's going to be, as we saw in the 1850s, someone using a cane to assault, say, a Democrat assaulting a Republican member of Congress. Or it may not be a cane, it could just be a fist or whatever. But do you fear that the anger, the hatred, the insanity, the derangement is escalating to such a point that soon we are going to see violence break out right there on the floor of Congress? Do you fear that?
Fear that insanity will become the norm. And we have to stop that. We just stopped the insanity of wokeness with the past election. Hopefully, sanity will come back, and we will be a country of one. Remember what Lincoln said: a house divided will not stand. We must become one again.
Rose, very well said. Thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. Stephen in Townsend. Thanks for holding, Stephen, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Stephen.
Hi. Are you aware of Ed Markey coming to Malden High School tomorrow?
Yes, someone mentioned it on the show earlier, and I've gotten several emails about it.
Are you thinking of showing up?
Am I showing up? with the way the governor wants to arrest me? No way am I showing up. I come within 1,000 yards of that guy, and they're going to claim Kuhner wants to do violence. Kuhner's dangerous. Kuhner's a terrorist. No, I got to be very careful. You have no idea the enemies I have. Believe me when I tell you this. The governor's gunning for me. Mayor Wu is gunning for me. The Democrats are gunning for me. The Boston Globe is gunning for me. The Boston Herald is gunning for me. The Mass GOP, the establishment rhinos, are gunning for me. So I come anywhere near a politician who's about to speak, and I'll be in handcuffs. And that's exactly what they want. 617-266-6868 is the number. Dan in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Thank you for taking the call, Jeff.
My pleasure.
Sounds to me like we've got some Hamas that want to run in the Liberal Democratic Party. They've got a lot of insanity in common. Jeff, we're watching history. We've got a tale of two. When you look at Trump and you look at the Democratic Party, there's destinies. And I'll tell you right now, Trump's got a divine destiny. He's won it. He basically proved to everybody in the country that it was going to be crash and burn. If the wild liberals would have got their way, they would have just destroyed the country. They would have basically, continued wars. They were responsible for not getting the Israelis out after 400 days. It was Trump that actually got these people to do something. But we would have definitely suffered. Our country would have crashed and burned. Our currency would have been gone by the wayside. We never would have got our distinction back as far as who we are in the world. And the direction of the Democratic Party and their destiny currently is that of crash and burn. They hate us for voting for Trump. They hate their own constituency for not getting them elected. And now what you're going to see is a crash and burn, and you are seeing it, a crash and burn situation by them. It's 80-20 that everybody is seeing it in the country, and they're self-destructing. And I can tell you right now, I really doubt, I'm glad to see the self-destruction because they will never get elected. It'll be 20 years before they get elected. They need to be someday, some way, come more right center and become a unified party instead of a bunch of socialist, anarchists, and a pile of insane people that basically stand for nothing and are led by nobody because nobody wants to stand up and speak for anything that's as despicable as they are right now.
You know, Dan, I agree with everything that you said. Please don't get me wrong. Every single word. But they don't even have to go to the center. Hey, look, it's up to them. It's their party. I don't care. Look, these are Bolsheviks. Okay? These are anarchists. They're Bolsheviks. They're communists. They're socialists. To me, many of them are political bomb throwers. These are nihilists. To me, these are people that are very dangerous. Fanatics. They're radicals. They're truly radicals. So I don't care for the Democrats. I'm not here to help the Democrats. But I'm going to be, brutally honest. And you're right. Everything what you said is right. But if they just need to be sane. Like, I think this is what I think Trump is trying to get at about what happened Tuesday night. You don't look, I don't want to repeat myself, but you don't stand for a boy with brain cancer? What is wrong with you? You don't stand for mothers who have lost their children, their daughters? One of them was savagely, an 11-year-old girl was brutally raped and then dismembered? You don't stand for the grieving mother? You're sick. Transgenderism. You're sick. Men and female sports. You're sick. So even if you want to be a social democrat, center left, big, tax and spend liberal, I mean, I don't know. Let's not have our cities overrun with crime. You can still be a socialist and be tough on law and order. No, you're not a boy. You're a girl. Knock it off. No, we're not going to do genital mutilation on children to give them a sex change operation. That's sick. We're not going to do that. No. We're going to have a regulated, legal immigration system. No one's saying don't bring in immigrants. Do it in a regulated, vetted, legal way. You care about the social safety net. You're Democrats. You care about these big social programs. So don't waste them on illegals. Because money's not infinite. Resources are finite. They're not infinite. So what I'm saying is Denmark does it. There are many countries in Europe that are social democracies, center left or left countries, but they control their borders. They say no to transgenderism. No, men are not going to be in women's sports. Gavin Newsom now, you can tell he's making a move for 2028. He in his podcast said, nah, I'm against men and female sports. Like he's looking at the polls and saying, guys, this is really insane. It's 80-20 against us. And they're not going to budge. This is not the hill we should die on. So what I'm saying is you can be for borders. You can be for biological reality. You can be for women's rights. Martina Navratilova is a feminist. J.K. Rowling, they're both liberal feminists. J.K. Rowling is a liberal feminist. The Democrats are at war with them. in the name of having biological males compete in women and girls sports. So what I'm saying is, if they're just sane, they can be competitive again. They've become a party of insanity and hatred. And then, I'm telling you, that's what we're seeing everywhere. Their reaction is full of insanity and hatred. Their behavior is full of insanity and hatred. Their policies and agenda is full of insanity and hatred. Trump broke them. Trump exposed who they really are. And honestly, Dan, if we're really going to be brutally honest, like I'm in the confessional, if we're to really speak truth to power, at their core, they are evil and they are Satanists. And I use that word very, very carefully. They've been hiding what their real agenda has been for decades. It is anti-God. It is anti-country. It is anti-human. It is anti-America. And now it's all come out. And I do believe the Democrats are in a crisis. And I don't think they're going to recover. I don't. Because you can't put this genie back in the bottle. You can't put this toothpaste back into the tube. Once what we've seen, you can no longer unsee. And that's why I think now they're going to be in the political, unless the Republicans blow it, unless Trump blows it, and I don't think he will, I think the Democrats are going to be in the political wilderness for at least a generation. Minimum. This entire leadership has to go. George Soros has to go. The globalist billionaires who finance them have to go. But that's going to take a while. They need a thorough purge. And that's going to take a long time. 919 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Couple lines are open if you want to jump on. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, very, very quick. Many of you are asking the Kuhner men, Professor Kuhner, because I used to teach history, obviously, at McGill, the Harvard of the North. Who was the person that used the cane against Senator Charles Sumner? Right, that famous incident in 1856. It was Preston Brooks. And just to give you very quickly the story. So, because many of you are going to say, well, Jeff, I don't understand. Preston Brooks was a member of Congress, a representative from South Carolina. Sumner was from Massachusetts, here, but he was a senator. So why would a congressman attack a senator? Well, what happened was, on May 19, to be exact, 1856, Senator Charles Sumner, and he was a staunch abolitionist, okay, very anti-slavery, delivered a fiery anti-slavery speech. And he went after, in particular, one of the leading defenders of slavery, which was a South Carolina senator, Andrew Butler. Butler was a very typical Southerner, especially South Carolinian. He was very tall, spoke with that South Carolina accent, really defended what was called the slave power at the time. But he was also elderly, he was sick, and he was absent. He couldn't show up for the debate. So as Sumner began to just tear into Senator Butler, just pounding him, Brooks, who was a cousin of Butler, said, "You're attacking an elderly man who can't defend himself." And so as a point of honor, and the South had this strong notion of dueling, of honor, of chivalry, and of defending one's kin. If someone attacks your family, it's an attack on you. And so Brooks was so outraged that Sumner had personally attacked Andrew Butler, his cousin, that he had a cane. He got it from a duel, much younger. Over politics, he got wounded, and he had a cane. So what he did was he waited for Sumner on the steps of the Senate and then said, when is this guy going to come out? And then said, to hell with it. And then he marched into the Senate chamber where he saw Senator Charles Sumner sitting at his desk. And that's when he just viciously began to attack him with a cane. And he kept beating him and beating him and beating him and beating him. He would have beaten him to death. Except other senators, other staffers rushed in and eventually held him back. And to show you how much the country was then divided, this was basically 4 or 5 years before the Civil War. After this took place, in the North, and not just in Massachusetts, but in the entire North, people were outraged, horrified, saying, "You're going to beat a senator over a speech? Are you mad?" And what they said was, you see, this is what slavery does. Slavery turns you into a tyrant. Slavery turns you into someone where you have no feeling, no compassion, no empathy for your fellow American or fellow citizen. It brutalizes and degrades not just the slave, but eventually even the slaveholder. We can't coexist with these people anymore. In the South, he was heralded as a hero. In South Carolina, they were drinking mint juleps and toasting his name. And they were saying he defended the honor of his cousin, the honor of South Carolina, and the honor of the South. And in all honesty, the opinion in the South was, what are these Yankees up there complaining about? It was just a beating. He's lucky he wasn't shot. That's so when observers were saying, no, I don't think this union can stand much longer. So it was one of the key flashpoints in eventually the Civil War. I'm not saying it's the only thing, but it's one of those key moments where it's so exacerbated tensions that, I mean, you could see the country was was literally coming to blows, and it was heading towards civil war. 617-266-6868. Long story short, my fear is the next time an Al Green is going to take a cane, and it may not be to Trump. It could be to Mike Johnson. It could be to Steve Scalise. It could be to, John Thune or Senator Rand Paul or Ted Cruz or whoever. And I think we could have the Charles Sumner, Preston Brooks thing all over again. You don't do that. You don't shake your cane. You don't threaten to beat the President of the United States. You don't even go down that road. Not with our history, not with our past. Agree, disagree. 617-266-6868. Chris in Missouri, or as they like to say, in Missouri. Chris in Missouri, thanks for holding and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, earlier I think you said you spoke about the unpredictability.
Chris, can you hold on? You were starting off like a human being, and then earlier you said. So you sound like some kind of a robot, but going slow. So I'll tell you what we're going to do, Chris. We're going to fix the connection, and then I'm going to come right back to you. 617-266-6868 is the number. Al Green, should he have been censured? And Democrats are saying it's racist, and they're not going to stand for it. Your reaction next. 9:32 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Okay, we're going to go right back to Chris in Missouri, but first, joining us now, as she always does at this time, she's the co-founder, CEO, president of Kelly Financial Services, and yes, that is her wonderful name, Kelly. Kelly, how are you?
Good morning, Jeff. I am good. Retiring early sounds amazing, doesn't it? But without the right plan, it could turn into a financial nightmare. That is why having a trusted financial advisor is key to making early retirement a reality. At Kelly Financial, our advisors can help maximize your savings with tax-efficient strategies, create reliable income streams, and help you plan for healthcare costs to ensure a stress-free retirement. We also have a free investor guide that might help. It's called the ABCs of Protected Retirement Income. It details the advantages and cost of fixed indexed annuities. For a free consultation with a Kelly advisor, give us a call or email kelly@kellyfinancial.org. Jeff, I will continue this conversation with our Kelly advisors tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Safe Money Strategies Radio. Do tune in or go to our website for our radio rewind. Jeff, have a wonderful weekend. My best to Grace and the kiddos.
You too. Have a wonderful weekend. All the best to you, Kelly, and everyone at Kelly Financial. If you want to get a free copy of their guide or a free retirement consultation, call now 888-800-1881, 888-800-1881, or you can email Kelly yourself, kelly@kellyfinancial.org. That's kelly@kellyfinancial.org. All right, let's see if we've reconnected. Chris, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Jeff. How's my transmission?
Chris, we're going to try. Chris, you sound like R2-D2 or C-3PO. C-3PO in Star Wars. Let's see if we can reconnect. Let's go to... we're going to go back to Chris. You want to try it? Let's go back to Chris. Chris, let's see if we can do this. Go, my friend.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
All right, that's good enough, Chris. Go ahead. Power through.
Okay, you mentioned how you couldn't predict 15 years ago what we're talking about today, genital mutilation, open borders. My question to the audience and you is, if this isn't stopped, what are we going to be talking about 15 years from now, if we're able to talk at all?
Well, Chris, I mean, look, my fear, if you really, I mean, you know, I really appreciate the question, and I always tell everyone the truth. That's why I'm behind this microphone. This is what I tell my wife. This is what I'm going to tell you. My fear is World War III. I think it's very real. I think it's very possible. I think we have some lunatics, some dangerous people now calling the shots behind the scenes. I think Macron in France is insane. I think Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, is a dangerous lunatic. And I fear they're basically the Joe Bidens of their countries. Macron addressed France. This, by the way, this is the biggest story in Europe. The media here is deliberately downplaying it, where he's now openly threatened Russia. France has now openly threatened Russia, saying that Putin will not win in Ukraine, that France will not allow Putin to win in Ukraine, and then he's nuclear. I'm talking now about Macron. Macron is now engaging in nuclear saber rattling, where he has now said that France will extend its nuclear umbrella, because France has nuclear weapons, as does Britain, that he's going to extend his nuclear umbrella to all of Europe in opposition to Russia. So he literally threatened Russia with nuclear war. The Russians came out. You got to see the foreign minister. I thought he was going to get a heart attack. Sergei Lavrov. And he said, you're engaging in nuclear blackmail. Do you honestly think we're going to put up with this? And then, Chris, you can look this up. Please don't take my word for it. During the entire Cold War, when it was us against Soviet Russia, we never, ever threatened them with nuclear Armageddon. They never, ever threatened us with nuclear Armageddon. Never mind getting into specific details and specifics about how we're going to blow each other up. Well, you've got Russia now being told by France, we're going to nuke you. And then Russia has come out and said, we don't even need to nuke you back. This is what they said. They said, we have these new hypersonic missiles that are indestructible in the sense that you can't shoot them down because they're just too fast. France has 50 to 60 nuclear reactors. They use nuclear power in France. He goes, we know exactly where all of them are located. All we have to do is launch our conventional hypersonic missiles, and France will no longer exist as a country. We will hit every nuclear reactor. You will see it'll be Chernobyl, but 1,000 times worse. He goes, France will no longer exist. And the European countries right around France will suffer massive radioactive poisoning. Now, they're talking about war, nuclear war, in the most casual, everyday manner. Well, we'll nuke you. No, we'll nuke you. Well, so Macron said, well, we'll obliterate Moscow and St. Petersburg. And then they say, well, we'll obliterate all of France. And then the Brits say, well, then we'll obliterate all of Russia. And then the Russians say, well, we've got 6,000 nuclear warheads. We have the biggest nuclear arsenal in the world. We'll obliterate all of Europe. Now, I'm telling you, it's madness. This is the path to, this is madness. To so casually talk about World War III and nuclear mushroom clouds over Europe, over the Donbass, basically a land bridge for Russia to Crimea. And then Macron said, and this is the key now, this is the position the Europeans are taking, that the security of Europe, this is what Macron said, you can look it up, and backed by Keir Starmer and the globalists in Europe. The Chancellor of Germany has now backed it, the EU has backed it, the EU foreign policy chief and the president of the EU, they've all backed this position, that the security of Europe depends upon the security of Ukraine. So if Ukraine loses loses to Russia in Ukraine, then all of Europe loses to Russia. They will not allow that to happen. They're willing to go to the brink of nuclear war. This is what Trump is dealing with. This is why he says again and again, you idiots are going to start something we're all going to regret. This is going to escalate to World War III. End this now, for God's sake. That's my honest to God fear. We got rid of Joe Biden here. And obviously Kamala was basically his pawn, okay? So we got rid of Biden and Harris here, but we didn't get rid of Biden in France. And we didn't get rid of Biden in Britain. And we didn't get rid of Biden at the head of the EU. And the Bidens of Europe are going to march us to World War III if we're not careful. So if everybody wants to understand, why is Trump so determined, in fact, willing to expend so much political capital in making a peace between Russia and Ukraine? Because if this is what they're saying in public, what do you think his intelligence is telling him in private? And that's why Trump is saying we got to end this war. Like, if I have to force peace, I'm going to force peace. I fear if we don't end this war between Russia and Ukraine, we may not be around in 15 years. God as my witness. That's my fear, Chris. That's my real fear. And that Macron would risk World War III, that Starmer would risk World War III, that the globalists would risk World War III, they should be thrown out of office immediately. Immediately. But that's just my opinion. 617-266-6868. All we're saying is give peace a chance. 9:48 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Larry in Leominster just messaged me a couple minutes ago, and he said, Jeff, that's why we need to get out of NATO. I couldn't agree more. 1,000%. If the Europeans want to go to war with Russia, I'm out. And NATO would commit us to defending them. No way. No way, Jose. If the Europeans want to start World War III, they can do it. That's their business. But I don't want to be a part of it. America shouldn't be a part of it. Let's get the hell out of NATO. And maybe if we get out of NATO, maybe Macron won't be talking so tough. And Starmer won't be talking so tough. Because it's easy to shoot your mouth off and, flap your mouth and threaten the Russian bear when you know the American eagle has your back, is backstopping you. But once we pull out of NATO, let the Europeans then go with Russia. I dare them. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Susie in Newton. Thanks for holding, Susie, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. So I have a couple of points. First of all, I support President Trump 100% about Israel, about Ukraine, all of it. Second of all, we the people have made our decision. It was done on November 5th of 2024. Now, we the people have to realize that we the people have been paying far too much in taxes for far too long for them to abuse us the way that they have. And it's not just the Democrats, it's the Republicans as well. They can find unity under criminal corruption, but they cannot unify for the better of the United States, for the better of we the people. We need to stop funding these mentally deranged people. And yes, I agree. Got to get out of NATO. Got to get out of NATO. Got to get out of the NIH. Got to get out of WHO. Got to get out of the all of it. Got to get out of it because they are leading us down the path of destruction.
Susie, I'm going to try to get him on the show. Okay, I'm going to ask Sandy right after the show is done at 10 o'clock or whatever, 9:57, 9:58, whenever we're off the air. I want to get Congressman Tim Burkett on. He's a Republican. He's a straight shooter. And the reason why I'm mentioning him, Susie, is he said this. He goes, I'm willing to lose my job. He goes, I'm telling you, they're going to destroy me. The elites, the establishment are going to destroy me. But he said, you want to know the real reason government officials are opposing Elon Musk and Trump and Doge and all of this corruption and waste and fraud that's being uncovered? Quote, I want to read to you directly what he said. Quote, they're going to push back because you've got congressmen on both sides of the aisle. If they follow that paper trail, it's going to come back to them. You've got their wife and or girlfriend that works for some agency, quasi-agency, or some business. This town's as crooked as a dog's leg. I'll get primaried for saying that, but that's the truth, and we all know it. Somebody's going to straighten it out. It looks like it's going to be Elon Musk. So what he's saying is all of these politicians are on the take. They're all taking money from USAID to all these other government agencies, or through their wives, or through their girlfriends, or like a la Hunter Biden, through their sons or family members. That's why they are petrified. That's why they're acting like idiots and clowns. That's why they're all losing their minds. Because the grift is now about to be over. They're about to be exposed. And Burkett says he's willing to blow the whistle. He goes, I've seen the corruption. It's everywhere. That's why they hate Trump, hate Elon, hate Doge, and they can't have any of this exposed. Final word to you, Susie.
I agree. We the people need to continue our fight forward. We need to stop this. We are funding this. We are allowing this to continue. We can't. Enough is beyond enough. We have to stop this. And I agree there aren't, not everybody is corrupt in government, in politics. But the majority of the ones that are the ones that are digging in. I mean, we saw it the other night. Al Green, give me a break. He's a doddering old fool. So is Nancy Pelosi. So is Mitch McConnell. They're all beyond lunacy. All of them. And they're all, I guarantee, they all have their arms in the cookie jar, elbow deep.
Oh, no question. They're all corrupt to the bone. All of them. You're right. There are some excellent members of Congress who are clean. And that's Tim Burkett's point. He says, no, there are some of us that are clean. But can't you tell? We're like, go ahead, find the money. Expose the corruption. We don't care. He says the ones that yell the loudest are the ones who are taking the most. Susie, dynamite call. David in Salem. I've got how much time left, Mike? 1 minute. I hate to go.
Hey, the monsters in Congress are voted in by the monsters that are sitting beside us in church, in our families, and they don't care. They vote Democrat no matter what. So the idea that the Democrat Party is over, no, that's not true, because
if this corruption really gets exposed, well, we just dropped them, but will that change their mind? And I'm hoping and I'm thinking we may be approaching an 80-20 country. We are on many issues, but if they blow the whistle on all this corruption, if it's really thoroughly unmasked and exposed, what right person could support this? Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.